I found the photo. For some reason, it's turned out to be the same day as the stock market crash. Wow. My wife said, well, they're all trying to get out of New York because they lost all their money. And we're not sure. But I don't think that things at that time transpired that fast. I don't think news transpired that fast. I don't think these people knew that their money was gone yet. They were still going out to the Hamptons.
They were still stuck in traffic.
They were still stuck in traffic.
What day of the week was
no
it?
cell phones.
Yeah.
All right, so real fast, a couple of my favorites was, and while we're still in the area, let me do Roosevelt Raceway. This is the second photo I posted. If you go to Library of Congress, you look up Long Island, the first thing you'll see is Macy's. The second thing you'll see at their website is Roosevelt Raceway. I couldn't get a later photo of it, and I'm still looking for it. I had a beautiful, at least in my opinion, going there as a kid. I'm sure it wasn't the best. Fountain in the middle. Would go on in between races, and for an 8-year-old, 10-year-old kid, his parents were taking him to Roosevelt Raceway. The fountain was entertaining. I'm sure the people losing all their money couldn't care less, but I was happy. This is what it looked like in 1957 when it first went up. Yeah, it's since been torn down. The grandstand would be on the left. Had a nice restaurant on the right, and to me,
Was it cars or horses?
It was horses. It was trotters, which are if you look at the horses that have the wheels in the back.
Oh, okay. The little wagons.
Harness racing.
Harness racing. Okay. Had a nice restaurant on the clubhouse side. Food wasn't great, but you could sit down and you could have a nice meal while your horse came in. Probably. Here's the shot. One of the things I liked about the track is it actually two things actually. It had inside grandstand seating, which sorry guys. Inside grandstand seating, and it was also set very far back from the racetrack. At the time, Yonkers Raceway is still open, but at the time, Roosevelt Raceway and Yonkers Raceway would have split seasons. So when Roosevelt was open, Yonkers would be closed, and when Yonkers was open, Roosevelt would be closed. And besides the fact that, again, my dad was always taking me to the track, it meant a longer trip to go to the Yonkers when the session was open. You just knew you were going to a nicer place at Roosevelt. It was just a more pleasant track. The details were nice. One of the nice things about Roosevelt Raceway, and I couldn't find a better photo of this. I'm going to continue to search and find a nicer photo. Tote board sits in front of the, basically usually at any track in front of the grandstand. Tells you the odds of each horse. At Roosevelt Raceway, the tote board will tell you what your $2 bet would pay on every horse. So if you had a long shot, like 6 must be, you pay $42. 4 probably was a little bit of a better odds horse. As far as I know, there is no track before or since that has ever had a tote board like that. So again, a 10-year-old, 15-year-old kid walking in, to me, that's cool. Tracks, it was also the first track to tell you what the exotic betting would pay off, and I think other tracks still have that. It was the first one, and the only one I know to tell you what a $2 bet on a horse to win paid. Roosevelt Raceway's president, owner, George Levy, was also an innovator. This was the first track to use and started a moving gate for the horses. The car basically getting them off. All kinds of problems in the racing for trotters before the starting gate. Okay, next thing, and this comes basically, the next thing I find is the Great Neck Shopping Center. And now, again, the thing I wanted to make a Facebook photo was Bennigan's, and that was taken. So I go along looking and I find a photo of the Great Neck Shopping Center, which looked something like this. And it didn't occur to me for a while that it's the same thing as the Bennigan's and Great Neck that I went to. Because, I don't know, it just had a different, Great Neck Shop. First of all, I couldn't place where the Great Neck Shopping Center even was in Great Neck. But then eventually the company said, hey, wait a second, that's the same Bennigan's I was going to make my next Facebook for. So a quick history of that. It was originally a Wanamaker's department store. It was eventually bought by Stearns and then became a Gertz, which I felt, as a Long Island person, was interesting. In our history, most of the time, the Gertz that we knew of all became Stearns because they bought them out. In this case, it was the Stearns that became a Gertz. Remained a Gertz until about the early 1980s when it became Bennigan's. And basically, I don't know if you know these, Long Island, we have some of these. It was designed, I guess, after Gertz closed, to be intended to be somewhat of a mall. I don't know if you ever gone to these, there were some of these Long Island, these malls that turned out being just only one store succeeding in them. So generally, if you went to this mall, you were always going in to go to the Bennigan's. Let's see, so the next thing is, I want to cover, which is one of my favorites, is Malibu Nightclub. This is a picture of Malibu nightclub taken in 1996, and this picture is a special picture in my collection, not because it's a Malibu necessarily, but it's the only one I took. I had to go back and find everything else for the show, but when we found out the night I was home and I was a frequenter of the club, that it was closing, I went down and grabbed the camera. I said I got to get some shots of it. And this is a shot that no one will have because you have to be cool when you go into Malibu, and no one will be nerdy enough to stand out in front and take a photo except me. So that's right. It was a big club, generally new wave. A lot of bands played there, usually in the early stages. And eventually it was closed by the town. Not that this is one place that, unlike some of the other ones that didn't close because of lack of success, it closed because lack of government, Nassau County wanting them there. Okay, next is my Mary Sendek story. So, does anyone have an idea who Mary Sendek is? Mary Sendek's story revolves around
that lady with the house?
the lady with the house. Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
Mary Sendek's story revolves around Macy's. So, I'm going through, and this is again, early on in my exploration, and I come across the building of this Macy's. And it was built in 1963. It's got a unique design. The cement structure that's on the outside is all parking. I guess what Macy's wanted was everyone not to have to park too far away from the store. So the entire cement structure was around the outside. Macy's was very excited about their perfect circle. The only problem was one woman had a house on the land that Macy's needed to build their circular store who would not sell the house. So this is a shot. This is Mary's house. This is the Macy's, and it's during its construction. And her land property, about 175 by 65 and a half feet, goes right up into where Macy's was trying to build their round structure.
Is that her garage?
So, yeah, that's going to be a parking garage over here. This is what Macy's today, it's now called Queens Place Mall, looks, and forever affected by Mary's house. For $50,000, Macy's had to redraw the blueprints because they could not get this piece of land. And I'm sure the architect, the Macy's manager, wasn't happy that the perfect circle was not perfect because Mary's land could not be bought. All right, so I found this story particularly intriguing and had to go a lot further, at least as far as I can go with it, for a bunch of reasons. First, it's a Macy's vs. Goliath kind of folk art story. A woman who turns down $200,000 for the house, and she paid a lot less for it. Obviously, it affects the building forever. I'm going to show you some more photos of the house and Macy's. And then what I did, and I think this is one of the things that I try to do when I'm doing historical photography, is I like to know where exactly the photo is that I'm taking. Because if I don't know exactly where it is, how are you going to know exactly where it is? So if I can in my mind envision where this is, it helps, I think, everyone who's looking at it to say, okay, this is where that was. Okay, this makes sense to me. So the fact that her house will stand for 15 years right next to this Macy's, it gives me something to work with, and I'll show you what I did.
What year?
Okay, this is the Macy's originally went up in the early 60s. I think it was up around 63, 64. She refuses to sell the house. She dies around 1980. So the two stand next to each other. Citibank building. I don't remember, at the time, but it must have been it's on Queens Boulevard, just north of.
I remember the brown Citibank right next.